Now we're moving on to a second game where we're going to also see the positional squeeze, but this time in a supposedly better scenario for black. It's the game Joel Benjamin, Grandmaster, versus Valencia Belsar, and this game was played in Edmonton in July 2011. Well, black played c5, d5, and now a6. This is an interesting move order by black, who basically dispenses with e6 for the time being, and he puts the thought into white's mind that he might be going to play something similar to the Benko Gambit with an early b5. So given that our initial policy is to try to restrict black, so Benjamin plays a4. And now black plays h6. Well, almost in all cases where black plays h6 in this line, white does best to drop his bishop back to e3. And well, the point is that, of course, queen d2 in this position is almost like a free move. Valencia takes on d5, and then he goes king h7. And now white's got a slight problem because, well, of course, the move he wants to play in this position is knight h3. But black's played his moves in such a way that Benjamin can't play that move. He could play bishop d3, but I think white would probably just prefer this bishop to be on e2 in this position. So you see, it's not that easy to find a move here. For instance, if white played a move like bishop e2, that looks rather weird. Probably black would just play rook e8 and wait for the time being with this knight. If black plays an early knight bd7 in this line, you've got to be ready with knight h3 to f2. But as I say, black has played this in an interesting way, and this more or less forces Benjamin to play his knight to e2, which is the other way. Gets his knight on g3. Black plays rook to b8. No threat of b5 as yet. So bishop e2, rook e8, and now white just castles. So really what we're interested is in where we go from here with white. Well, black played b6. That's trying to get b5 in the slow way. As I say, these moves h6 and king h7 don't look especially useful to me. When that knight's on g3, black should always be looking to transform this pawn into a dynamic strength by playing h5. But b6 was played, and now Benjamin shows his hand with rook a b1. What I like about this game is the way that white deploys his rooks and then goes through with a queenside advance, which should be actually black's area of strength in this position. So knight h1, very strange looking move, but there is a point to it. Queen c7, rook fc1, knight g8, and now white comes in with knight f2. So it's taken white perhaps a couple of extra moves to get his knight on f2. But, well, whereas black used those moves usefully, he's played the moves b6, which looks a little bit out of place. The queen on c7 certainly looks out of place here. And this h5 move, unless black can push that pawn down the board, I have some doubts about h5 in a position of this type. So we know what white wants to do here. He wants to press forward with b4. When he's put his rooks on b1 and c1, he wants to go b4. The first really strong grandmaster I saw using this plan was Tony Miles, who used systems like this when he was at his peak and won a lot of nice games with white. So b4, what is black to play? White has an obvious advantage in this position, it seems to me. Black tries to block the queen side with c4, but now b5, a very good move, cutting off that pawn on c4, isolating that pawn, and well, hopefully white will pick up that pawn as the game progresses. So black played a5, white played knight cd1. Now black played f5, so black is trying to get a measure of activity in this game that he couldn't get in the last game. White played f4, again very thematic. Knight g4, and hey presto, the pawn has gone. Now you might say, well, that looks very easy. But the problem was, and it stemmed from, the position after b4. Black simply did not like his game. White has choices of plan in this position. He need not necessarily focus exclusively on the queen side. He could certainly think about building up to the move f4. a5 completely destroying black's queen side is also an option. So black simply didn't like his position, and this led to the very poor position he gets in the game. And of course the grandmaster in these positions is completely ruthless, and Benjamin just finishes him off. He takes off black's only active piece on g4. He doubles his rooks. Penetration to the 7th rank could not be stopped. And then he plays this beautiful move, rook c6, which of course is a fork of 2 more black pawns. So basically in this position, black has been completely outplayed. He's been squeezed to death, and white just takes all the pawns off. So black took. Of course he's lost here, black. He tried to extricate himself with some tactics after e3. White took. Queen e8, d6. This is again very, very normal in this line. If white can play those moves, he should. And now white's cashing in. b6, b7, bishop a7, just threatening to queen that pawn in broad daylight. His last shot by black, g3, and white just coolly takes it off. And seeing nothing in this position, black resigned. So to start with then, 2 examples of a positional squeeze. And that is one of the main ideas of this bishop g5 variation.